Welcome back to The Tangent. Today in the room we have Tim.
Hello.
And Devin.
Yo.
And myself, James. Today we are going to discuss a newer show. I know last week we discussed Cobra Kai. That's a newer show. But we are normally nostalgic about older stuff. But today we're going to discuss a new show on Amazon called The Boys. Quick overview of what The Boys is. Basically, it's franchised, corporate-owned superheroes. I mean, in a nutshell.
The society, the world, that's what it is.
It's a reimagining of the Justice League, essentially.
Yeah. So instead of
the
Justice League having one backer, which is Batman, that has all the money in the world, these superheroes are run by a corporation.
It's like the Justice League, but if the government was super involved with what the Justice League does and is also responsible for its creation.
I don't know if the government...
No, because the responsible for its creation thing, that's a difference. The government is super involved with the Justice League in DC. They do a lot of sanctioning and working together, and like some of the backers, like Bruce Wayne, Batman is not the only backer of the Justice League. They do occasionally have like independent labs like Star Labs or something like that backing them also.
I meant that more as like involved, but not like in a positive way.
Right, but so what I'm saying is the Justice League and the Seven, which is the name of the superhero group from The Boys, are very, very similar. It's literally just like optics that have changed.
Because I mean, I guess Homelander's Superman.
Homelander, Superman, Maeve is
definitely Wonder Woman, and then Black Noir is Batman.
A-Train is the Flash.
Right.
Lamplighter.
He's a little.
He's a little harder to pigeonhole, but he is sort of like their Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Starlight, who replaces him, is more like Green Lantern.
Yeah, and then you have the
he's
Deep,
more like
which
Green
is
Lantern
Aquaman.
and like theme, like he's got the lamp staff thing, and but his power is more so like every superhero TV show has to have like a fire user. So let's take Iceman from X-Men and make him into Pyro.
Translucent has 2 of Martian Manhunter's powers, which means he's missing like 10 powers from Martian Manhunter. But I guess he's a decent enough stand-in.
But again, like I said, the Deep is Aquaman.
The Deep is Aquaman,
for sure, yeah.
And that's a dead-on correlation there.
Yeah.
Now, there's a little bit of difference when it comes.
This is also worth saying. The Boys is also a comic book.
Yes.
The comic book is put out by a subsidiary of DC.
Right.
And The Boys is not the first comic by a DC subsidiary to make fun of the Justice League directly. The Watchmen was also literally the exact same thing.
Right.
Except its heroes were less obvious ripoffs of the Justice League.
So the little differences between the Seven and the Justice League is the Seven are a little bit more dirty. I was going to use brutal.
Yeah,
they use a lot more brutality.
Superheroes are
I was just going to go with they're a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, superheroes are majorly unchecked, and also like they don't really give a crap. Like most of the time in superhero things, like they're portrayed as the people that want to do good rather than just the people with powers.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas in this, they're just the people with powers that are paid to do good.
Right, and then there's some things in the Boys that are kind of interesting to me that I find kind of weird is that they're very focused on like
celebrity.
Yeah, they have their celebrity status and how much like they talk about how many points that or dislike.
It's weird because there's a lot of weird ideas that are all smashed together.
They're like politicians and
celebrities. They talk about their popularity in terms of points like politicians do. The company is run like a company, and they the heroes discuss with each other and interact as though they're celebrities. So you're sort of smashing these three things that are vaguely similar but kind of disparate, just sort of together into this like weird arching thing of like just people trying to be popular, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of got a little bit of that My Hero Academia-ness to it.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to be, popular.
Well, yeah, because in My Hero Academia, they do a similar thing where, like, it's based on popularity. Mm-hmm. And I think they have a popularity system in One Punch Man too, I think, right?
Yes, they do. Like a grading system.
Right, because you have to be such and such powerful and be such and such popular to move up in ranks.
In One Punch Man, it's I saw it more as like a grading system on like how actually good you are, like how much you're doing cases, how much you're
accomplishing and stuff like that. But there is that guy who's the number 1 A class hero who literally keeps himself there to keep people he doesn't like out of S,
which is awesome,
right? Because he should be S rank, but he refuses to go up.
But anyways, without getting too sidetracked by other superhero-based things, let us not forget the name of the show is The Boys, and that's not referring to the superheroes.
No, and that was actually a surprise to me. So The Boys are actually a group of guys who don't like the superheroes because they actually know what they do.
And most people in the group have been wronged by
wronged by a superhero.
Basically, every member of the Seven except for Starlight, and that includes like the ex-member of the Seven, Lamplighter, has wronged someone in the group. Or wronged someone who associates with the group.
Obviously the leader with the leaders. So.
Right, so Billy Butcher's the leader of the Boys. He was wronged by Homelander. He recruits Huey, who was wronged by A-Train. Frenchie was a guy who Butcher used to associate with and brings back. He was wronged by Lamplighter. Mother's Milk, I can't remember who he was wronged by, but he was wronged by somebody.
It had something to do with his dad, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I'd have to rewatch to kind of get.
I don't think his full backstory was released.
Not a whole lot of it. No,
it was very quick. You got enough of it to know what was going on, but it didn't happen until season 2, and I can't remember it.
Yeah, and he only he shares a little bit of his story in order for them to get something done.
Right.
Plot-wise.
Yeah. Kimiko, who shows up in The Boys later, is wronged by Stormfront.
But the
Starlight is wronged by the Deep.
Kimiko is wronged by Voight entirely.
Okay, yeah. So
right, but the person the person who she's
Vought.
specifically after is
yes,
Stormfront.
yeah.
So
in season 2,
Devin just mentioned Vought, and Vought is the company that
owns the Seven.
Owns and runs the Seven.
Right.
I don't want to give away too many spoilers because I really want you guys as an audience to watch the show.
Yeah, we just want to give you a little
bit Tim and Devin were talking just a minute ago before the podcast about the show itself. Tim thinks it's pretty mediocre. It's a good show. Yes, it has its good moments.
I like season 1.
Continuity wise, I found some continuity glitches. We were discussing that too, how at the end of one episode all this big stuff happens, and then at the beginning of the next episode everything's back to status quo, everything is back to normal, like nothing happened. And you're
we're gonna have to wait for a spoiler section to get into a lot of my criticisms of the show.
Yeah,
because they're about specific things.
But the big reason why I really, and the thing is that I started watching The Boys when it first was released on Amazon. Now I think Devin and Tim got into it later.
I started at the end of season 1. Season 1 was already finished, and I started watching.
Okay, so
I started watching it 7 days ago and finished roughly this morning.
I watched
the whole show is fresh in my mind.
Very greatly describes how Tim, watches
consumes things.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so I watched the first 4 episodes of season 1 when it was released. Within like weeks of its release, I watched the first 4 episodes. I don't know what happened and why I stopped. Mainly, it might have just been the fact that it was on Amazon, and I just don't always get onto Amazon to watch shows too much anymore.
Right.
And I just didn't go back, or maybe I got jaded by something that happened in the show, and I'm like, I should go back and watch it.
It would probably be pretty easy to get jaded.
Amazon doesn't advertise a lot of their shows anyway.
Right.
It's very difficult to.
Yeah, I mean,
because I heard like a year or two ago that they were going to do a Hannah show on
and they did
Amazon, and they did, and season 2 is out, and I didn't even know the show was out at all.
A lot of Amazon's like advertisements that I've seen, like, because I saw advertisements for The Boys before the show even came out, but it was like an advertisement on a free streaming service. So like I think it was like Funimation or something, I was watching something on Funimation and it was one of the ads.
I think I caught The Boys advertisement for the first time when I was on Amazon, because it was where I found a movie I wanted to watch, and I happened to turn it on, and it happened to be on in front of the movie. They do that quick advertisement for a show or something.
I have never seen an advertisement for The Boys.
Really? Oh.
Then my question is, how did you hear about The Boys?
Nick showed it to me.
Okay.
I was over at Nick and Emily's house, and Nick was all like, "Have you seen The Boys?" And I'm like, "The fuck's The Boys?" And he was just like, "It's a show about superheroes being dicks." And I was like, "It's Watchmen?" And he's like, "Well, no." And he made me watch the first episode, and I was like, "Hey, that's Carl Urban."
Yeah.
I didn't know Judge Dredd was in this show. And by the way, Nick, he hasn't seen Judge Dredd, so I have to make him watch that.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah. So a Butcher is played by Carl Urban. That might get some people to actually find some interest.
Carl Urban is like the biggest stealth celebrity ever.
Yeah.
No one knows who he is. When you tell him what he's done, it's like he was Bones in the new Star Trek movies. He was in the Lord of the Rings. He was Judge Dredd.
He's been who?
Aemir, the King of Rohan's son.
Really?
Yeah. He looks really, really young in Lord of the Rings.
He's got like long blonde hair and wears a helmet all the time.
Well,
he's got like a goat, like a very trimmed goatee.
The chick that plays Starlight was in.
Jessica Jones.
She told me this was in Jessica Jones.
I didn't know that.
I've
only seen season 1 of Jessica Jones.
Well, her radio host friend, the blonde chick who,
I'd have to rewatch. I wasn't terribly impressed
her
with
sister, Jessica Jones' sister.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's Starlight.
So here's the thing. I was thinking about this. She's a really good actress because in Jessica Jones, she seems older than she does in The Boys,
which is after Jessica Jones by at least a couple years.
Yeah.
Right. And I started looking at the way she acts in The Boys to make that happen. She changes the pitch of her voice a little bit, but most of what she does is with her body. When you look at her, like in her Starlight costume, she looks really small, and I've noticed she rolls her shoulders forward.
Yeah.
So it makes her chest look a bit concave, and it makes her look small and timid, and she raises the pitch of her voice.
Language. And you can act with just that
right.
alone.
Yes, and so she looks way smaller.
We've discussed that.
Than she does.
Yeah,
that's
the chick I'm remembering from Jessica Jones
is tall and big.
Just all I remember is
she's
like
athletic,
pretty tall, athletic, and blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when he told me that's who I was, my jaw was on the ground. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I couldn't I'm gonna have to rewatch Jessica Jones just to have that light bulb moment and be like, holy crap, like, I don't disbelieve you or anything, But
I want to say that Lamplighter was somebody too.
he was Iceman in X-Men.
Yeah, he was Iceman in X-Men.
Iceman and X-Men.
And now he's Pyro in The Boys.
And
basically, yeah.
The Deep reminds
Got
me
a
of somebody,
lighter
but
and
it's not who I think it is.
I don't
seen
recognize
him in
him in
anything.
particular, I don't think.
And you never see Black Noir's face, so you don't know who
Are
he
we
is.
not going to talk about the fact that Huey is Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's son?
Yeah, I was getting there.
And okay, here's one of the weird things. So this is very early in episode 1, so it's not really a spoiler. Simon Pegg plays Huey's dad.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Simon Pegg looks young for his age, and Mr. Quaid has old man face syndrome.
He does. Because
So they look
his
like
dad.
they're the same age.
Yeah,
but they're playing father and
son.
son.
This is probably true. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were showing a friend episode 1 of The Boys last night, and once we looked up a couple of the names,
she nearly peed herself when she saw Huey and was like, "That's what's his name's son and blood," and because she's into celebrities.
Yeah,
Who is this?
Katie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she likes celebrities.
I just kept watching the show, and at some point I'm like, man, he fucking looks like somebody, like, very much to me. And then I look, because Amazon is
does
great.
that really awesome, yeah.
It has, like, the feature where when you pause it on a scene, like, it'll tell you, oh, here's all the actors that are in this
and then
scene,
you can click
how
on
they
those
appear,
actors. The
and
thing
you
is
can
you
click on
can
them
click
and
on
look at their...
and look at their whole profile.
Yeah.
Like, everything they've done.
That's a really interesting feature. I did like that. That was
I went in there and I'm like, oh, that's why.
That's what actually allowed me to figure out that Starlight was played by the same chick as
and
Jessica Jones. Like so I was like, who the hell are you? You look kind of familiar. I was like, no wonder you look for because in Jessica Jones it almost looked like she had a more square jaw.
Yeah.
I was like, how the hell did you do that?
That's what like I'm saying. The face of the chick I'm remembering doesn't even look like that. You know,
she's like presents herself more like tall and broad and like chin forward.
I actually know somebody that looks a lot like her. Like just somebody that I know throughout my lifetime that looks a lot like her. And that's the only thing I think of when I see Starlight. Is like, man, she really looks like that girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think she's hot. But anyway.
So the basic premise is Starlight is the only one of the heroes who actually wants to be a hero.
Who has a conscience outside of being told what to do and what not to do.
And the other thing is, as far as I've been told, because I haven't read the comic, but as far as I've been told, the show is a lot lighter than the comic is.
Holy cow! It's lighter than the comic.
Yeah, because in the comic, in the show there are some of the quote unquote heroes that on occasion do have a conscience. Not so much in the comics. In the comics, they're all basically Homelander.
Wow.
They're all a bunch of narcissistic, children that run around and do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give away a whole lot of show, but man,
Homelander has somebody did a number on that boy.
Well, not only that, it's like they do little bits and clippets on like every one of the major stars or the major heroes, except for like Black Noir. What's it? The guy goes invisible. Translucent.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Well, we all know the reason for the translucent.
But we're not going to talk about that.
They go, and then you brought up.
Yeah, when we get into the spoiler section, we might talk about it.
But without giving away the show, I can't really tell the audience what the show's about.
So should we just go into the spoiler section then?
So,
well, I think.
Or do we have something else to discuss before spoilers?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you got something that can be said that's not a spoiler?
I'm trying to think about it at least first,
Right, because
I don't want there to be people that are listening to this that are like, oh, I'm kind of interested, but now I'm going to just listen to this whole spoiler section and not care.
I mean...
Forget it. Let's just do it.
So
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Anything beyond this point is going to be more directly into the show and the plot lines of the show.
We won't spoil a ton of things.
So if you've already watched it, feel free to continue listening. If you haven't watched it and you would like to, go ahead and pause it, wait till you've watched the show, and then come back to this and see how...
There you go.
See how, close we are in our analysis compared to your analysis.
Or if you don't care about spoilers, just keep listening.
Or if you don't care about spoilers.
If you're like me and don't care about spoilers at all, then...
So, Vought... We find out that Vought is the key to all these superheroes. Later...
Well... I mean...
Well, you find out about this thing called Compound V early in Season 1.
Right.
Because A-Train is on this thing called Compound V.
Yeah, it's basically, they treat it like it's a drug.
Yeah.
Because it is.
It's a soup drug.
You know? It's a soup drug.
That's what they refer to superheroes as.
I see it as more of a super enhanced steroid, but it's more of a drug. So, A-Train uses it to maintain him being the fastest person in the world. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of soups around just the United States.
Yeah, Vought is not the only company that has superheroes, and it has 200.
Yeah, and so each city, major city, each state has so many, and these superheroes are either working for the city or working for another company. They're kind of like mercenaries when it comes down to it. So
no, I honestly view them more as professional athletes.
Yeah,
because they're all under contract. Like their contract is such and such years long.
They have to make certain salary appearances.
Yeah. Right.
They're told how they're coached on what to do in superhero situations even.
Right,
and they're not even told that they have to do these superhero things and save stuff. They have to make appearances.
Yeah.
They have to make speeches. They have to appear a certain way. I mean,
in the first episode, Madeline Steelwell is pitching one of her heroes to, I think, the mayor of Baltimore.
Yeah,
and she doesn't even think that the hero that she's pitching will cause the crime rate to go down. She just thinks it'll be good optics for the mayor in attempting to make the crime rate go down.
Yeah.
So they're not even required to be effective.
So
they're just required to seem effective.
Right.
Yeah, which is
so now Vought is trying to get their superheroes into the military.
Yeah.
This is mainly Season 1. So that not only are there superheroes of Vought taking care of the United States and keeping the crime rates down, or not keeping the crime rates down, depending how you want to look at it. They are trying to get them to defend the country from not only people invading the United States, but
super terrorists
going out and ending wars faster.
Yeah.
Now the United States, right as of the beginning of this whole thing, is the only ones that have superheroes.
Yeah.
Well, at least
as of the first season.
Confirmed. I still, that's all theory, though. Speculation.
Right. Well,
we don't really know.
That's what they think, is that they are the only ones with superheroes. But later on in Season 1 and most of Season 2, they talk about these.
In Season 2, they show that at one point in time, Germany was the only country with a superhero.
Yeah.
That's
true. Big spoiler
and
there.
Kind of.
It's almost not even a spoiler, because I saw it coming from 37 million miles away as soon as they introduced that character with that name.
Stormfront?
Yeah. Because that's a neo-Nazi organization.
Stormfront?
Yes. That's not even subtle.
Well, I don't think they were trying to be subtle.
I don't think so either.
A lot of the time you don't have to be subtle, because no offense, Tim, but not a lot of people know as much as you, and they're not as big. Well, I don't know why you would take offense to that. But you're just well informed.
But the whole point for me is Season 1 I thought was interesting in terms of character development, and some of the plot was pretty good. Season 2 streamed off into just straight up propaganda mode.
Yeah, it was.
Season
2 was a lot of chaos.
I still liked it because
chaos.
of that, but
Season 2 is a lot of just pure chaos. things are starting to go awry, and then you got this company trying to fight to get it back under control and things like that. So, come to find out that this Compound V is being produced by Vought, and these superheroes are being made as babies. Mm-hmm. So, where the superheroes
now, I may have missed this, but A-Train gets in trouble because he's running around with he's transporting Compound V, and I could never figure out why he was transporting Compound V, like who he was moving it for.
For Vought.
But why?
So that they can make more suit babies.
But where? Because so here's the weird thing. They were experimenting with maybe doing supervillains to try and up their numbers, right?
Yeah.
To give themselves better PR and junk.
Correct.
So he's transporting like all these doses of Compound V from, you would think, from like one lab to another. Simple task. Except he's not doing that. He's transporting to like the underground of like a restaurant.
You also have to think that the soups don't know that Compound V made them soups yet.
Right, but
so
that's not what I'm getting.
You know, it's kind of like indirectly doing it for Vought.
Right. Well, I mean, I think he's directly doing it for Vought because they just ask him to do it, or someone else is asking him to do it. And
I
that's
thought
even
he was
weirder.
doing it for some kind of like dealer, wasn't he?
And that's even weirder.
Yeah.
But then also he's stealing doses of Compound V because he's getting a lot of it from the transportation. So if he's doing it for Vought and they want him not to be on it, then why are they still having him transport it?
Because he's the fastest man in the world.
They could literally just put it in a truck.
So, like I said, continuity is not always the clearest in the show.
Right,
so,
and that was one of the first things I just I need to turn my brain off and just go with it. And
that
one was okay.
We come to find out that
issues for sure.
Right. We come to find out that Vought again is the creators of Compound V, and Compound V is what is creating these soups. Yeah. So these superheroes are being created as a child, and these children's parents are getting paid lots of money to raise their children as though they were just born that way. They were born with superpowers, and they had to learn how to use them.
With the intention of eventually they could potentially become a super celebrity superheroes,
right.
Which is why the parents all did it, and they didn't see, the potential bad in it.
Correct. Yeah, so essentially, all of the parents of all of the superheroes are also terrible people.
Yes, they are.
This is obvious.
It's super obvious, especially when you just look at the biggest example that they give in the show to show you is Starlight and her mom.
Yeah.
Okay, especially with the way that we're supposed to see Starlight.
They throw a lot of not so subtle shade at pageant parents.
Yes.
Like child beauty pageants.
Like within the first 15 minutes of the first episode, they're already throwing shade at pageant moms.
Yes, and honestly, I'm in agreement with that particular brand of shade. So,
Tim appreciates
that one. That one didn't offend me. That particular piece of propaganda went directly into my yay jar. But it does get weirder because eventually they go on like the Christian evangelist circuit.
Oh my gosh, that was
that's
great.
Actually funny though.
This preacher dude is
who's also a soup,
who's also a stretchy soup, like Fantastic, Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four.
Super unkempt. My first impression of the first time we see him, we don't know who he is or anything, but it's in episode 1 when they go to that superhero secret nightclub.
Yeah.
Where they can just do whatever they want and society won't find out.
Yeah, so they sort of mention who he is, and say what he does, but you don't think he's very important. You just think he's just like some random character in passing that is supposed to be, it's a shocking thing to the people in this world.
That's another bit of shade thrown with that, because I feel like they made him purposefully like creepy looking.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of appreciate that. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's funny. I was very entertained by the shade they threw at the church.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and the other thing is like Homelander is part of the church.
They throw
Starlight's a big part of the church.
They throw shade at like evangelical like super churches.
Yeah.
Not something I'm particularly willing to defend.
Like,
but they do it as though like super evangelical super churches sort of represent all churches.
Yeah.
And that's a little
but
so
I don't know.
The
whole church.
There's so many different religions, and some of them have very similar.
The whole church
in season 2,
but
in season 2 they make fun of Scientology very explicitly.
Right.
Oh yeah, because of the
Church of the Collective is
God.
very obviously
Scientology.
It's also very weird because they called it the Church of the Collective, which hits more weird propaganda points, but it's
a lot. Yeah. Well, I think so. Like with season 2 was released in recently. Like season 2 just finished last weekend.
Yeah.
The last episode dropped last Friday, and which is like the first week of October of 2020. So, like, I feel like in writing season 2, they very much, like, steered towards what's going on in the world and what to attack and what not to,
So, I saw an interview with Eric Kripke, who's one of the showrunners. He very specifically said that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And right after I got done with that interview, I was like, I'm not a big fan of Eric Kripke anymore. Like, I wasn't a very big fan of him anyway once he left Supernatural. Mm-hmm. Which is the show one of the first big shows that he ran that he got known for.
Yeah.
But like once he was like, we're doing things that are relevant in the world today, and I'm just like, dude, you really overestimate how many Nazis there are in the world. There's like maybe like 1,000. Like,
true, especially in season 2, because like they really hammer that down.
Yeah, they're just like. It is a social justice wet dream of just 3 strong, independent women literally kicking the crap out of a literal Nazi.
Yeah, pandering.
Like
There's some super pandering.
Well, and then they did that whole like A-Train's not wanted because A-Train's black.
Yeah.
And, okay. No, here's the thing. Someone actually told me because I was at work telling someone that I was watching The Boys, and I was asking him some stuff, and he was like, have you gotten to the point where Stormfront talks to A-Train yet? I was like, no, I don't think so. And he was like, just wait till then. And when I finally got there, which was like the next day or something, I got to that point in the show, and I'm looking at this scene, and I'm like, A-Train's taking a lot more away from this conversation than Stormfront's actually projecting. Mm-hmm. Like, I can tell that Stormfront means these things, but I've seen things that Stormfront's actually done that reinforce those things. But her actual words are just sort of
hollow.
No, they're just like they don't necessarily have to mean anything. They're just platitudes.
Mm.
Like it's like saying, "Hey, nice weather we're having," when you you just use like lightning bolts to kill someone, and you're like being all clever and like, but the other person doesn't know that. Like. Like, A-Train doesn't know the context behind anything that Stormfront's saying, and yet he's taking offense to it. And I'm kind of wondering why.
Are you talking about... That's, like, the earlier part in the season, right? Not the
No,
part
it was
not
like
when, like, he hops up in their car while they're driving and was like, what's up, bitches?
Correct.
Like, not that part?
Not that part.
Okay.
It was the part
on,
when they're filming the movie.
He gets all up in her business for a second after.
Well, like Stormfront happens to like go sit down at in her chair, and her chair and A-Train's chair are like across from each other, and A-Train's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she throws all of these like very, very, very like shaded sort of like
fake like answers. And
yeah, like
responses, just to get through the conversation.
these things that we can infer as A-Train is black and therefore she doesn't like him. But there's no way he would have gotten that out of the conversation because he has no idea that she just spent the episode before just nuking black people for being black. He has no idea that happened.
Right.
Like, we know that happened.
So early in season 1, A-Train is addicted to this Compound V, and he ends up getting like
kicked out
because this stuff is
the secret of Compound V becomes.
No, he doesn't get kicked out till season 2.
Well, right.
He has a heart attack at the end of season 1.
But he has a heart attack.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
that's right.
This Compound V is causing his heart to grow larger and larger and larger, and something else to go smaller. And
they basically it's a super steroid.
Yeah. So because of that, A-Train, who has to use his heart because he's a runner.
Well, everyone has to use their heart, James.
But what I'm saying is like...
yeah, you kind of don't have a choice.
Like, what I mean by that is that he has to do physical... And his heart...
Yeah, his exertion is higher to his heart than pretty much anybody else.
So, Compound V is enlarging his heart. He's getting slower because he tries to come off of Compound V. And then... Yeah, a bunch of stuff happens. He ends up having a heart attack at the end of the first season.
Yeah, so then he owes somebody a favor, which comes back.
Compound V also is apparently addictive, so that's the reason why he can't just get off of it.
Right.
So
it's addictive, and without using it, your performance drops to lower than where it was even before you started using it.
I'm not even sure they said that. I think they just said that he was on he was on withdrawals or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've had any experience, even just seeing somebody go through withdrawals, it majorly affects their ability to mentally and physically do anything.
Right. But anyway, so we're kind of all over the place when we're talking
really
about this. We're not going in any kind of order, so excuse us in that anyway. Spoiler-wise, we've already said the basic main plot line. Now, the boys is a group that are trying to get Compound V noticed by the public and given to the
They're just trying to get rid of superheroes any way they can.
A big part of their plan to do that for season 1, the easiest way to sum up what season 1 is like the boys who hate superheroes and want them all to go away, or at least be exposed for what they are trying to expose Compound V.
Yeah, that eventually becomes their idea once
they find out.
They start off. They end up accidentally kidnapping Translucent.
Yeah.
And then purposely murdering him. And then they're trying to figure out because A-Train killed Huey's girlfriend by accident.
Right.
And so they're trying to figure out what A-Train was doing so they can try and get rid of him.
Right.
And in the process of figuring out what A-Train was doing when he accidentally murdered Huey's girlfriend, then you get into the deeper plot with the V and his transporting between things and, Pop Claw and, all that junk.
Yeah.
So there's the whole storyline for season 1 is that, plus Starlight doesn't like being in the Seven. She's the newest member of the Seven. She just got in to replace Lamplighter, who they don't really go into why he's not in the Seven in season 1.
Yeah,
they just sort of they barely mention him. But he had recently left the Seven, and Starlight replaces him, and she starts to realize that the Seven sucks.
They're a bunch of assholes.
That they're a bunch of assholes because they are a bunch of assholes.
That sucks.
And so she ends up meeting Huey, and they don't know about each other in the context of hero v anti-hero. I don't mean anti-hero in the comic book sense. I mean anti-hero in the sense of he is literally anti-hero. So they end up getting into a relationship, and Butcher wants Huey to use the relationship to spy on the Seven. Huey's not a big fan of that because he actually likes. He likes Starlight.
He's the very like dogmatic. I have a conscience. I have to do the right thing kind of character. So that's not something that you would really expect him to do.
So Huey and Starlight actually end up like hitting it off, and that eventually doesn't work out because she eventually finds out, and it's the liar revealed storyline that you've heard a billion times before. Except this time it was a little weird because he could have just literally got out of it as I didn't want to do any of this, but Butcher insisted, and I stopped halfway through, and he's been getting on my ass because he knows that I stopped.
Right.
But he doesn't say any of that. He just sort of goes, and then Starlight like throws him through a wall or something.
Right.
But season 1 I thought was interesting. It was the way I can describe season 1 is it's Watchmen if it was directed by Howard Stern. Because Howard Stern, very famous for being a shock jock radio person who literally just existed to shock people,
yes,
and make them freak out so that they would keep listening.
Yeah, that's true. Like for me watching the show, I always forgot these episodes are an hour long.
Yeah,
which a lot can happen in an hour-long episode, especially if you're used to watching 22-minute anime episodes.
Right.
But
so
it got to the point where I'm like, man, this is still going.
And these shows are true 60 minutes.
I would start to know when the episode was going to end because
sometimes they're over 60 minutes.
Right.
But when I really thought about it, it was just Watchmen. But every time they got to the point where they may be talking too long or taking too long on something or evolving the plot, they would just have random gore happen. Like someone would explode, or someone would fall out of a thing, or there'd be terrible, awfulness, like crashing planes with children in them, or it's all the character setup at the beginning of episode 1. When you get halfway through a decent character setup, and then girlfriend explodes.
Yeah.
Even
in season 1, episode 1,
right?
That's kind of how the whole show starts.
As I'm thinking about it more and more, I don't think I should be describing it as Watchmen directed by Howard Stern. I think it should be Watchmen directed by Howard Stern if he had attention deficit disorder.
Yeah, it's like, hey, pay attention to this, and then, oh, hey, stop paying attention to
this.
Yeah,
and suddenly the director was just like, I'm bored, blow someone up. And
alright.
And season 2 gets worse with that. I started really going wow, a lot of this has no point when they drove a boat through a whale.
Oh my god.
They drove a boat through a whale, and I was just like, why?
Right. And
for what reason?
So when that happened, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting him to try to back off and not hit the whale, but he just freaking...
Yeah, he just breaks it.
It's like his brain had absolutely no reaction to that happening. He's just like, I guess I'm hitting this whale.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so as soon as I saw that, I was just like, I'm not 100% sure what I'm watching here, but it is me and Huck got into a conversation earlier today about the Saw movies. And it made me think about the Saw movies just in general. The first Saw movie had gore in it, but the movie wasn't about gore. The movie was about the plot and the characters. And as the movies went on, the characters got more paper thin, the plot got less important, and the gore came to the forefront. And that's kind of one of the things that's wrong with The Boys is you're losing a lot of the plot. The character development's still good, but it's a lot of just gore for gore's sake, followed up with social justice propaganda.
I gotta say, a very obviously popular character is Butcher.
Billy Butcher, as played by Carl Urban, is great.
His plot developments, specifically in the second season, were like, I didn't understand the point to them.
His character development doesn't even happen till the second season. Yeah. He does not change at all until like the last episode of season 2.
Yeah.
Like, he goes through no character journey. The rest of it is just him being a stubborn asshole who's just going forward to kill superheroes. Right. And anything he can do to kill more superheroes faster, he's down with.
They establish him as being just that. From episode 1 to episode 8 of season 2. And then they're just like, oh, hey, he's going to go meet his dad.
But the thing that really annoyed me...
Not meet his dad, but he's going to go see his dad.
The thing that really annoyed me about that was, I think it was season 2, when Starlight says that he's a bigot, and I was like, oh, okay, so you're going to go with the superheroes as racism storyline, like an X-Men thing.
Yeah.
And then I remember that Stormfront was in the show, and I was like, wait.
Yeah.
There's just very explicit racism. Like, you can't do this. You can't do subtle version of this exact same storyline. Like, it's... like, you're doubling up.
Yeah. I appreciated some of that, like, because in the episode where they had, like, a kind of Starlight and Butcher are both looking at Huey, and they're like, oh, he's such a wonderful guy, and we're just
that was a decent bit of character progression
for both of them.
I wouldn't
mostly for Annie. I wouldn't Starlight.
I wouldn't say so much for her, because all that was just her realizing that she doesn't have to give up all of the things she was. Because she gets very jaded through season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
And has to sort of, like, make it back to, like, okay, being a hero isn't all really dumb.
I just felt like the part where, you know, like, she accidentally kills the guy, and then, like, what I was thinking through going through that, you know, because I had read that, oh, yeah, this is going to be a really important part for Starlight's plot development going forward. But you don't really see much of that in anything other than just that episode. When she accidentally kills the guy and they're trying to save Huey and all this and that, and like I feel like
they never really refer back to that at all.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they left it alone in that first episode, because by the point that they're like in the hospital and stuff, she's already kind of gotten over it. Like, mentally, like, she's like, oh, well, I mean, I did it so I could protect him, and that's kind of part of just being a person rather than being a superhero.
But James brought up something a little earlier where, like, you basically, at the beginning of every episode, you can assume that, like, half the crap that happened in the episode before just didn't happen.
Right, so...
Because they just reset. Like, it's so bad to the point where I literally felt at points that, like, did I miss a plot point? Was I not paying attention? Did I miss this? Did I miss some dialogue, or did I skip an episode?
So at the end of season 1, it looks like Starlight's caught, but then at the beginning of season 2, they're just back to normal.
Yeah.
Not only are they back to normal, no one refers to it, no one talks about it, and for some reason, Starlight changed her costume back to the costume that she specifically
didn't like.
Yeah, she specifically didn't like and blackmailed Vought into getting rid of.
Right.
And if she'd made a deal with Vought, you would think someone would mention it and someone would be holding it over her head, but they don't. And if she just elected to go back to that costume to try and get on Vaught's good side, she made a big enough deal out of getting rid of that costume that it would be more suspicious for her just to start wearing it again.
Yeah.
And there's no mention of why this is taking place.
She's just wearing it again.
It
seems like a decision that they made. Like
it seems like at the beginning of every episode, they just pick and choose what they wanted to have had happened from all the episodes previous, and then just get rid of everything else.
And that's they do kind of always like allude to like, oh, this isn't just like the next day or the next week after every episode.
Right.
Like there's a possibility of there's been time that's passed, not more than just a couple of days or a week or so, but like. They only allude to that. They don't specifically say that. So, like, you really have no idea what you're getting timeline-wise in the show.
Right.
So...
Continuity errors.
The big one I thought was kids. And I think I brought this up to you yesterday. So, in I think it's the end of season 1, Homelander finds out that he had a son.
Right.
Right? And he specifically says, I thought Supes couldn't have kids. And the doctor's like, well, we thought so too. Because they apparently had no evidence that Supes could have kids. At the beginning of season 2, they completely throw that out the window. They just act like that never happened. That interaction didn't occur. Because at the funeral for Translucent, they talked to Translucent's 16-year-old son.
Oh, damn, you're probably right about that.
And I just sort of excuse it as maybe he's adopted. Until later in the season when you find out that Stormfront had a daughter. And I'm just like, okay, no, you guys just... So if you guys are just gonna because they don't say kids adopted.
Maybe
right?
they just lied to Stormfront.
They lied to Homelander.
Yeah, Homelanders. All right,
but
both bads.
But the thing is, why would Homelander have believed it if he knows Translucent has a son?
How does he know that Translucent has a son? Though?
Because he knew that Translucent had a son. Like he's talking to him like they're old buddies at the funeral.
Yeah, I don't know. That is stupid.
Right.
That's really stupid. I didn't notice that.
They set up their own lore and then they kick it down themselves.
Superhero. I thought superheroes couldn't have kids. Why would you think that, Homelander? Because 3 of your partners got kids. What's that about?
Well, I mean, this is the first kid with him, though. Or this is his...
Yeah, I don't know. I find it kind of hard to believe that anybody could survive having a kid of his.
Yeah, and
or even just survive the act of conception.
Well, I mean... That gets weird. Because that's another thing they needlessly focus on in the show. I can't even remember the context of why he did it. But Butcher drags Huey to a I don't even know what to call it. It's like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, but for people who have been wronged by superheroes.
Yeah. What is that?
I don't know why he even did it, but he drags him to this thing, and then Butcher makes fun of everyone at the meeting.
Yeah,
for no reason, just because he's an asshole.
Yeah, no.
If Billy Butcher had superpowers, he would also be Homelander.
Well, and they try and make that point of. Somebody says, oh, well, you're just like Homelander is anyways. Or something like that. I think it's at the end of season 1.
He would probably be worse than Homelander, because Homelander is at least worried about his public opinion polls.
Yeah. Unapologetically vengeful is how you describe Butcher. So, that's not a person you want to have superpowers, you know?
But regardless, the specific point...
What makes him a damn good detective, though.
Yeah.
The specific instance that I'm talking about is the guy who's talking about he was in a relationship with an ice hero, and in the middle of it, there was an orgasm, and his penis was frozen off.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And...
Ouch.
I mean, one, Butcher just laughs at him incessantly.
I would too, if I'm being honest.
But that guy had a stick in his hand. If I had been him, I would have just fucking hit him with a stick. But regardless, it does make it very strange, because that's not the only instance of sexual I don't even know what to call it. Just
not going well.
Just
going well when a soup is involved.
Because it's not impropriety or malfeasance.
Let's not forget.
It's literally just whoopsie daisy.
Let's not forget about what happened with Popclaw.
That's what I'm getting to. Right? Popclaw is sitting on a dude's face, and the dude's face explodes.
Oh yeah,
because
crazy.
Her name is Popclaw. And her power is she pops claws in places. And apparently some of those places happen to be in her nether region. And while she's sitting on dude's face, his face gets pop clawed. And, and he'd be dead. And, how...
Yeah. That's, yeah. That pretty much summed that up.
So I'm guessing the reason why no one knew that a lot of the Supes can have children is because they be freezing penises off and pop clawing faces.
Well, I think the thing is that they thought they were sterile.
Right. And that's pretty much what Homelander says.
Yeah,
that's
Homelander
what,
thinks
I
he's
was
sterile.
Led to believe when he asked that.
So
question.
when he did, I know this is going to be one of those things, but when he did rape Butcher's wife, he thought that no matter what happened, he wasn't going to have no baby, so he just did what he had to do, and he finished and was done.
Right.
Well, he also thought that she was dead, also too. He might have just.
No, I think he just didn't care.
Well, I don't think he
because he went around and asked people what happened to her near the end of season 1.
The thing is
so
that
he didn't know what happened to her. He didn't care.
Well, he didn't even realize she disappeared.
Yeah, right.
So to him, it was just another. It's whatever. I did what I wanted to her, so I'm done, and he moved on.
Right.
So he didn't realize that she was even part of anything.
Yeah, it took him like Butcher all of season 1 to even figure out why Butcher wanted to kill him.
Yeah, because he didn't even know who. He didn't know who was doing this stuff because they didn't have any pictures of anybody. And then all of a sudden, now they have pictures of them because of their awesomeness. And
I'm a dork. There's toys, okay? I'm playing with them.
And once he saw the pictures of these people trying to find him, he recognized Butcher, and he's like, then his brain went back to the girl, and then he's like, what happened to this girl?
That was a really interesting thing in season 1 when A-Train very much did not recognize Huey.
What's that about? What is that about?
Like that seems realistic to me because
he wouldn't care.
It's not only that he wouldn't care. He's met him once for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and he didn't even care when he met him the first time. You know?
Right? Like,
he was.
Why would he recognize him?
Yeah.
Like him recognizing him would be more unrealistic than what happened.
And the person who did recognize him was obviously Starlight.
Yeah.
Because they were in a relationship.
Yeah. So like when Homelander at the end of season 1 presents the evidence to A-Train and he's like, "Do you remember him?" And he's like, "Kinda, not really." And it's like he was at Pop Claw's apartment. He's like, "Oh yeah, he was." And then he shows them the photo of him at Seven Tower or whatever the hell it's called, Watt Tower or whatever, and he's signing the thing and receiving the apology from A-Train for running through his girlfriend. He's like, "Oh, that guy?" And
then he acts like he's all pissed off.
Right.
You didn't even remember who this dude was 5 seconds ago.
Right. You cared so little about this person and the fact that you ran through his girlfriend.
Right.
Like and you're gonna be mad.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so just from the little bit we've been talking about, yes, there's a lot that goes on in 2 seasons. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of continuity errors.
The plot moves too fast for its own good. Like that.
I mean, it's 16 hours of television.
Right.
Like literally 16 hours.
Right.
16 hours and some change.
Yes. But I mean, and like I said, the shows are an hour long, and these are not like your typical hour-long shows that are on television where they have commercials that are only 42 to 45 minutes long. These are full hour-long episodes.
Yeah, an hour, hour and 2 minutes, hour and 5 minutes, something like that.
Right.
So,
and that last episode seemed like it took forever.
I didn't realize what episode number I was on by the time I got to that last episode, because I was watching it weekly, not like back to back.
Gotcha.
And by the time I got to season 8, I thought there was gonna be. Or season 8, sorry. Episode 8 of season 2. I thought there was going to be another episode because I wasn't paying attention. And then I was just like, man, they're going to have to end this soon. Otherwise, they're going to run out of stuff to do in the next episode. And then I was like, this is obviously season finale.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about over here.
But, I mean, this is going to be a little shorter episode because I think we pretty much talked out the boys.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, there's only 2 seasons.
Yeah, there are only 2 seasons.
There's not so much about the source material that we know about.
There is a third season.
4 or 5 whole movies and a show to talk about.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they're doing a 3rd season.
They are.
I'm pretty sure it's confirmed.
It is.
So, we have that to look forward to. But, I mean, really, there's only 2 seasons. I think there's a lot of continuity errors. I think there's a little bit of this, that, and the other.
Well,
but the thing is, to me, the show itself was really good. I personally enjoyed
The Boys.
I enjoyed watching the show. I enjoyed the stuff that happened, and things like that. I enjoyed. I
think the development between
the show,
because they established the 7 in episode 1, with Starlight now being a member of it and whatnot, but things change over the seasons, and now especially in season 2, you get side stories for where characters have gone and stuff, and I didn't really care so much about those characters, but I enjoyed their side story.
Right.
So season 1 I liked. Season 2 still had good character development, like I said, but I don't like where the plot went, and I thought that it was basically just propaganda at some points. Right. But the thing that kind of irks me is everyone's treating it like, it's this grand new idea that's never been done before, and I'm just like, Watchmen was done in the 80s.
Right.
Kick-Ass was done in the early 2000s. Hancock, it had Will Smith in it, man. How'd you miss it? The heroes in a more realistic setting and exploring what they would be like, in the real world. Yeah. It's been done many times, and people have had all kinds of different takes with it.
I actually saw a question as a part of one of my nerdy pages on Facebook that was Homelander versus Hancock, and everybody was basically just saying Homelander gonna get walked.
What?
He would.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that he would, because they both have basically the same power set, and only one of them thus far has shown to have a weakness.
That's true.
But granted, his weakness is being in proximity over a decently long period of time to a very specific person.
Yeah. So
unless they decide to have a fight for a week in the middle of that person's front yard,
yeah, Homelander would have to. The fight would have to go in a super specific way for Homelander to even become aware of that weakness.
Right, and Homelander thus far hasn't shown any weakness. So I think they would just punch each other until, time stopped. But...
yeah.
I don't know, I think this idea has been explored a little bit better with Watchmen.
Things.
Watchmen went specific in how it was doing things like the Cold War, which is basically what it was exploring was the contrast between heroes and real world events, and how those things would affect heroes if they were in the real world and things like that. I think that was a much better exploration of the subject.
Yeah.
And it was a more honest exploration of the subject. Because if we wanted to think about heroes in the real world, it wouldn't look like that, because that's not how the world is.
No, you're
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think we're pretty well.
We've touched on
pretty much everything I'd like to hear.
We didn't really spoil a whole lot either.
No, there wasn't a whole lot of spoilers. There was some, the Compound V, and the fact that Compound V was creating and blah blah blah.
And Stormfront is an obvious Nazi.
Stormfront's a Nazi.
That's pretty. I don't think they were really trying to hide that though.
What are you talking about? You never knew she what?
They didn't.
Sorry, that was sarcasm.
I recognize from episode 1 where that one chick was oh, it's a coup, and then they blew up her head. I know that wasn't actually Stormfront involved with that chick being killed or anything, but
right.
it made me think about, Stormfront's obviously here to get some people pissed off about some stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, to rile people up so that they could
Now the whole head blowing up plot line, I'm not exactly sure what they're gonna do with it, because the show seemed simple to begin with, and I'm guessing this is how the comic is, where your central villain is always Homelander. And in the show, so far, he hasn't been the constant villain. He's just always there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference.
You know he's not a good guy, and he's always involved.
Right, but there's always happens to be something more pressing than trying to figure out how to kill Homelander.
Mm.
Which I think they only tried to figure out how to kill Homelander for half of a minute in the first season when they discussed who might know Homelander's weakness. And then when they got to that person who they thought might know his weakness, no one even asked her. Because the only person that was there was Butcher and he didn't care.
True.
Which is weird because I figured
that
he would have at least asked.
Greatest motivation,
right?
Like, how do I kill this?
Right? How do I kill the only person in the world that I care about killing?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't even bother asking. But
you can't. There's no killing him. He's invulnerable, invincible.
Well, I mean, they thought that all soups were unkillable, and then they blew up.
Translucent. Right. If you stick plastic explosive.
Well, no. That's not true because they said that they... Well, I don't know. I know they really didn't kill any other soups.
They didn't kill any... They didn't talk about killing any, but at Translucent's funeral, no one talks about how unprecedented it is, and you would think that they would if he was the first superhero ever to get killed.
True. But then again, they did kill those terrorists and stuff like that, so...
I don't know. It's kind of... Again, it's all over the place, and like I said, it's not a terribly realistic depiction of the real world. But I don't know where they're going to go with the head blowing up thing, because her motivation seems really weird.
Yeah. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, like she seems to blow up the heads of people on every single side, and she doesn't seem to have a clear motivation at all. So the only thing I would hope for in season 3 is literally give her a direction. Like, tell me her goal.
Just don't make
so I can understand
what's her end game.
Yeah, don't make her bad for the sake of having bad.
Right.
Make sure her end game is where it should be. Like, give her an end game. What does she want out of this?
Yeah. What's her goal? What does she want?
And that's all I really need out of her.
Right. So. All right. Do we have any recommendations this week on anything like movies, TV shows?
I would say if you like The Boys, then watch or read Watchmen.
Yeah, there's a movie and a show, and there's the original.
Right. The thing is, I wouldn't recommend the show because as a fan of Watchmen, I did not like the show because it was not very Watchmen-y. It also suffered from propaganda syndrome, and I'm not even sure what the hell it was trying to say.
I have no idea either. Anyway, recommendations?
Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh, we haven't mentioned that in a while.
Dragon Ball Evolution is also a really good exploration of superheroes in the real world.
Sure, I mean, we can't even argue against that point. But.
So, I really don't have a recommendation, so I'm just going to recommend to watch The Boys if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, comment down to us and let us know what you guys thought of it, so we can kind of have an idea of what everybody else thinks of it.
Yeah,
I keep hearing from everybody that they loved it, so it's really good, and then but there's better out there.
Yeah, I'm almost offended at the point that the only complaints I've heard about The Boys is they didn't put all of season 2 out at once, and it's like, your shallow complaint, it does not reflect this show at all. Like, who cares?
It's all
who cares?
Yeah. I just want to watch.
Who cares that it came out, one episode a week for like 5 weeks because the first 3 episodes came out all at once.
Oh, did they?
And then they put out the next 5 1 week at a time.
They definitely.
Who cares?
Yeah, I don't.
That doesn't affect the quality of the show. Right. And I'm saying this as someone who thought that season 2 was kind of garbage. Like, so.
All right, so like I said, if you haven't seen The Boys, go watch The Boys, and let us know what you think. Please comment, subscribe, do your thing to us. Yeah. Thumbs up this video, or
hit that like button.
Smash that fucking like button.
Smash it.
All right,
smash it.
So with that, I'll say talk at you later.
Bye.